Shalom. So today we're going to understand fear, how it works, and how to conquer it, right? Because fear is something that works through ignorance, through darkness. And the more ignorant you are to a situation or an experience, is the more the fear will conquer you. But as soon as you get the understanding, then you can overcome it, right? So this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 17, verses 12 and 13. It says, "For fear is nothing else but a betraying of the succors which reason offereth." Alright, so let's just look up the word succors so we can just get an understanding. It says aid, assistance, or relief given to one in distress. So the relief you get from understanding, that's what reason is going into. Reason, from reason comes understanding. So it's a betraying of the relief which one gets from the understanding which reasons offer. Alright? Now, an example of this. For example, you're alone in your house, right? You know by common reasoning, common knowledge, that in order for the pipe to be running, someone has to turn it on or the tap is spoiled, right? No, if you're inside your room and you hear your bathroom or your kitchen pipe running, knowing you're the only one in the house and nothing is wrong with the pipe, what starts to happen? Because of the betraying of what you know by common knowledge, what happens now? You start to worry, and then that worry is going to turn into fear, right? Verse 13 says, "And the expectation from within," meaning within your subconscious, "being less, counteth the ignorance more than the cause which bringeth the torment." So it's no longer about you hearing the pipe running in the kitchen. It is now about you get emotionally invested in something that you don't understand. So brings more fear and worrying and torment because of the ignorance, right? So this is why the adversary likes to keep us in darkness, because as long as we're veiled, it's easy for him to manipulate, right? So I'm just going to show you how this works internally so you can understand how to conquer it. Alright, so we're just going to get a deeper understanding of the fear, see how it works inside once the subconscious gets involved, right? So, an example. Here we have you inside your room, right? You think you hear the pipe running in the bathroom or the kitchen. You don't give it any attention. So it's just a mere thought for you, right? Then the next minute or two, what you hear is the pipe running again. Now what? Now you give your attention to it. And as I said, common knowledge tells you that in order for the pipe to be running, someone has to turn it on or something is wrong with it. And you know there's no one else in the house and you know nothing is wrong with the pipe. So what happens now? The betrayal of what you know by common knowledge or common reasoning is going to strike worry. What is worry? Worry is nothing but a thought that repeats itself, right? So again, at first you heard it, but you did not give your attention to it, so you're not concerned. So this would not be a problem. But now that your attention is given to it, this is where the worrying comes in, right? This is why we doubt. For example, if you're sitting on your balcony and you see an ambulance pass, you don't give a thought to it, it's just an ambulance passing. But what if you see the ambulance pass back, up, go the other direction, and then another 2 minutes it passes back again? You give your attention to it. Now you start doing what? Wondering if someone nearby is sick, or and the ambulance is coming, but they cannot really find the exact location based on how they, you know what I mean? So you're basically giving your thought. So now you are trying to project, because the intellect cannot discern what is really happening. So now the mind can only project, and this is why we worry, right? Because we don't have the understanding of what's going on, so we only project, right? No, this worry, what happens to it when it gets in into the subconscious, we get emotionally invested in the idea. And what does this strike? It strikes fear, right? So now the fear is here. So how do we deal with this? Sometimes we try to deny that this is really there, so we suppress it using different methods in different ways. So in order for us to not feel our feelings of fear, we suppress it. However, the mind, the relationship with the mind and the body, the mind and the body, they are closely related because this is just an extension. The body is an extension of the subconscious mind. This is why what goes on in here is manifested in the body. It's not something you can control. It's going to show, even if you're suppressing it, it's going to show up bodily, one way or the other. This is why people can look at you and tell that something is wrong. Even if you cover it with a smile or whatever you want to do, you drink, you smoke, whatever you do, people can still tell. So your subconscious mind is, the body reflects the subconscious mind, right? And we are not aware of this part of our mind. So this is why we do things without realizing, and then when people tell us that we are actually doing it, we would naturally say no, because we are really not aware, right? But if you're humble, you will reflect on what the person is saying and actually examine yourself. But if the pride is there, you will start to defend. We become defensive because that is the nature of the ego. Alright? So, how does this manifest in our bodies? If we're worried about something of the past, it's going to show up in our body as what? Depression. Maybe it's a decision you should have made or should not have made. Something of the past, right? No, if it's something to come, something in the future, what does it show up as? Anxiety, right? When it reaches to this level, it's very serious. Why? Because when you are depressed, it shows up in many ways. For example, you start losing passion. Things you would usually like to do, you don't have the interest anymore to do it. You'll just rather sit around, lay around in bed all day. What are some of the signs you can tell? Alright. Say you're just in your room locked away. You're watching a movie, but if someone asks you what are you really watching or what just happened, you cannot really tell because you're not really watching the movie. You just put the movie on to let it appear as if you're watching, but you don't know what the people are saying, you don't know what just happened, you don't know anything. The movie is watching you, right? So these are signs that you can use to tell that a person is depressed, right? You kind of like throw up yourself the way you used to care for yourself. You don't really do that anymore. All right. Anxiety. What happens? Sometimes it comes with even some shivering, shaking, right? You're breathing. You breathe faster, heavier, and so forth. So either way you take it, you are really not present. Because this, I didn't write it, this here, the ego cannot live here in the present. It either lives in the future or in the past. And this is how it feeds on your mental energy, right? Because once you're thinking about the future or thinking about the past, you are not here. And once you're not present, you will not abide in the love of the Most High, right? You will be in a stressful state, thinking about something that you want to get, you want to do, or either something that you did not do. So this is why um, when you don't understand something, it really eats us from inside out through our ignorance. This is why the adversary likes darkness, and the ego is pretty much his tool, right, to manipulate us. So he can use, like they say, he can appear as an angel of light, so he can show up in many different ways. Alright? You can manipulate your ego, you can show up as fear, depression, anxiety, confusion, all of these things. It's working through one door, the subconscious mind. Alright? Or the conditioned ego. So that is it for fear. So if you want to overcome this, the only thing you need is understanding. And once the intellect understands whatever the thought is, then there's no more worry. So understanding brings an end to the worrying, right? So we have to always rely on what? The light of the knowledge, because knowledge conquers ignorance. Just like day puts an end to night, knowledge puts an end to ignorance. So once you understand, once you know, and you are grounded in what you know, then you won't need to betray your understanding, your common knowledge. You are grounded in that, right? So all it needs is just to understand, and that's how you conquer the fear, the ignorance, through the light of knowledge.